So close, so close. Now, I told my customer got billed 13 hours, and that was cut down a lot because he sat out there for 2 days, more than 2 days. 2 days out there, sometime on the phone. I billed him 13 hours. Now, the ISP did not want to pay the bill from the first time because they argued, no, this is not our problem. It was a router configuration. It really wasn't. It was their side that's the problem, but they didn't want to pay it. For this one, I told my customer, again, this is between you and the ISP, but they told me you're the first person to ever have this kind of connection in this area. They had no idea how to set their device up. They had nobody knowledgeable of anything related to this. In fact, they shouldn't. The tech that was out here told me they weren't even supposed to be selling this technology to businesses because they cannot. They didn't know how to do a static IP for businesses on this device.
So they were selling a service that they in turn had no full support for yet.
Right. I had to configure it. I had to configure their device after a few days. So I said, you can use that if you want when you get the bill from me to send to them because there's no way they can argue that this is not their fault.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention you've been down for 5 days. So what the ISP was going to do, I don't know because they left and said, I guess I could have called back the ISP and talked to somebody else and then started over, but that was a complete nightmare for the customer. They just gave up. We're done. And they left.
Yeah,
is it working? No, it's not working. It's not working.
That's quick. The question, and also they're asking in the chat room, what new technology was this? That
he did not tell me. They just said it was new and it wasn't because there's no PPPoE username and password. The only thing I have on the router is set to DHCP. He didn't really, and I don't think he even knew. Because when I asked him for specifics, he said, I'm not really sure. They said it's just a new thing. So I never got an answer from the ISP or that tech that was out there.
Can you imagine working for a business and they send you out to a client's location and say, here's a piece of equipment, go install it and go support it, and you have no training? And can you imagine like the nerve, you go and walk inside a client's location, like imagine how you felt, you asking all these questions and go, man, I don't have the answers to any of this.
Yeah, I was asking him different things, and he said, I don't know. He said, I've never seen a device like this. And in fact, all the time spent with the first device they sent was never going to work because whoever he talked to finally said, you can't use that device on this kind of connection. There's no way it's going to work. So that was a whole day wasted trying to get it working on a device that wasn't working until he finally found somebody in his company that said, you have the wrong device. It's not going to work. And he said, well, where can I get one? He said, we'll have to get one to you because you're not even supposed to have that in your area.
Very nice.
So we're trying to get, yeah, it was awesome.
Again, but Matt had mentioned a couple of times here, when you get a new ISP, especially for a business, you don't ever cancel the first one. You keep it until you ensure that the second one is connected. And I've been to businesses where they even keep both of them for at least a month, just in case, or a couple of weeks. Because if this client would have kept their current ISP, the only thing Matt would have had to do is switch them back to the other ISP and reschedule a time with a new ISP. But because if you want to save a few dollars, they were down for a total of, 8 days with both sites, Matt?
Yeah. And some people just don't listen. You would think after being down the first location, they wouldn't make the same mistake again. But
all I can say, I don't know the people that work in the office, but I know this. It wasn't Mary. Because Mary would have stopped that real quick.
She'd have put the hammer down. God. And it doesn't matter to me. I don't want them down, but in the end, we're doing everything. I can't do anything. At this point, it's between the ISP tech they sent out, and he's on the phone with some hotline that he has, and I can just watch.
Mm-hmm.
So that was interesting. Sometimes it's completely out of your hands, and you just have to. And now, in the end, I'm glad he left maybe I could have worked with him, but since he was gone, I said, well, let me get in there and look at it. And I mean, we got it up in about 5 minutes.
Uh, what's great is at times, and this happens to all of us, is you'll be doing something, you put hours into it, in fact, at some point days, and then just something happens, and you go, oh, so that was it.
And I
And
think, and it helped because having been familiar with WatchGuard, it was kind of similar where you can assign different things to different interfaces. And that's, I think, what was confusing him because you're not going to have that kind of router or that kind of ability in your average home router
gotcha.
where you can say, I want this interface. And when you get a home router, one port says WAN, the other port say LAN,
Right.
and other more sophisticated appliances, then they're not labeled. They're labeled one, two, three, four, five. I can make one an internal interface. I can make two an external interface. I can do what I want with them. And that was kind of what this thing was doing. Which would be nice to have some flexibility, especially if you have multiple devices that need public IPs. This device would be an improvement over their past devices. But again, you have to be familiar with it. They need to give their people training.
Yeah. Especially with this, with any new technology, and much like the Microsoft reps, when they come through. In fact, I was talking to one today. He had to be trained on the newest and latest technology, and in order for him to consult us, you can just send him out blind. Have at it, buddy.
They could.
Yeah, he could.
Some people do.
He could.
So that was a good one. But as bad as that one may sound, I have no problem with that kind of work. None.
Right. I mean,
Didn't
because you got
didn't
paid
give
for it.
well, it didn't give me a headache. It's not stressing me out in any way. The next job, that's the kind of job that stresses me out.
Okay.
Uh, it's the worst kind of job, I think. And what is it? You get a call saying my server's locked up. Okay, server's locked up. Can we do, and first thing, can you do anything on the server? Go to the server itself. Can you do anything? No, mouse is not responding. Keyboard's not responding. Control Alt Delete. Nothing's responding. Okay, let's power it off, power it back on, and hope it comes back up. Comes back up fine. Okay, I'm standard. Let me look in the event logs, see what I can find, see if I get any indication of what locked it up. In this instance, the only thing I see is errors related to IIS. That's all I see. I said, okay, well, it's just one lockup. Let's just monitor it and see what happens. I call again the next day. Server locked up. Okay, let me look at the logs again.
Out
Same.
of and I'm sorry to interrupt. Out of pure curiosity, did it lock up the same time?
No, and I
Okay.
kept a log. Well, I didn't keep a log right away. The first time it was around 7:50 in the morning. The
Okay.
second time about 3:45 in the afternoon. So I look at the logs and I see the same IIS errors. And that's all I see, nothing else. So okay, well, IIS locking up. Yeah, maybe I could see it lock up the system. That's all I see. So um, I downloaded some, and I forget the exact name of it, but it's a debugging tool that you can use to capture the IIS events and threads of when it crashes. So I said, okay, I've got this tool running, and I'm trying to put a link. I'll send that to Steve. Hopefully, if he's doing show notes, he can. It's some long link. Um,
Is it called the debug diagnostic tool?
yeah, that's it. God, Lalo, you're good. That's it. So I load that, install it. I set up the rule to capture the logs. And I told him, let me know when it locks up again, and I'll check the logs. It didn't lock up for 4 days, but it locked up again. I got a call. Okay, I got an email. Locked up. Now, of course, the first couple of times I said, before you reboot it, let me try and connect. So I'm trying to RDP into it. Nothing.
Can you ping
I,
it?
I you can ping it.
Wow.
You cannot RDP into it. I had Log Me and Rescue installed on it for unattended access.
Okay.
I couldn't get into that. So it really was locked up. Pretty good. So I get a call and it locked up around seven something in the morning again. I thought, okay. I look at the logs, and the only thing I see in the logs are all related to a specific program running on the server and all the workstations. And it has an IS component. So, and I see a bunch of threads in there when it crashed. That's pretty much all I see. So now I suspect there's a problem with this software causing a problem in IIS. So I called the software support for that company and I explained what was happening. And they said, oh, that's a known issue. I said, oh, wow, that was easy. Known issue. Awesome. Okay, what do we do? So he gave me a tool. He said, just run this and you'll be good to go. I said, do I just run it once or I mean, what's causing this? I don't want to know. Just here's a tool to run and run it blindly. Do I need to run it once a week? I mean, why is it happening? So he says, well, there's some orphaned entries. Sometimes when the software is being used, there's orphaned entries, and the server keeps trying to process those, and it eventually locks up IIS. I said, okay, so how often should I run it? Oh no, you shouldn't have to run it more than just once right now. He said
Right
because
now.
yeah, the server's been in service for 5.5 years. They've been using the software for 5.5 years. He said it's not a common issue. Just run this and you'll be good. Okay, great. Um, so I run it, and of course, every time I made it clear to the customer we're troubleshooting it. I'm not saying that this tool is going to fix it. This is
Right.
the next step in the troubleshooting process. And I make it clear because a lot of times they'll say, "Oh, you said you fixed it." I never said I fixed. I'll be clear. I make it very clear. This is still the troubleshooting process. I see errors in the event logs that indicate that it's this software, so I'm going to deal with them. Okay. If it still locks up, I'm going to go reevaluate the logs again and start over and look for another cause. It locked up again. This time around, four something in the afternoon again.
So, how shortly after you applied the patch did it lock up?
Couple hours.
Okay.
Yeah. Enough for me to eat lunch and cross my fingers.
Saying, does someone have a quarter?
So it locked up again. And I thought, okay, I looked at the logs again and I don't see anything different. I still see the same IIS entries. Um, but before I can really do much, the next morning it locked up again. So now it's locked up twice at around 7:30 in the morning and twice around 3:45, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So the next day after the patch, it locked up twice, 7 something and like 3:30. So I'm looking back at the event logs, and almost every single one is around 7:30 in the morning or 4 in the afternoon. So I'm thinking something is running around this time.
Right.
It's got to be. I mean, it can't, yes, it can be a coincidence. I don't want to rule out a coincidence, but almost all the times are either in the morning or the afternoon. And it doesn't do it over the weekend because now it's spanned a couple of weekends and it does not happen over the weekend when nobody is using the system. So I think I was on a wild goose chase with that IIS, with that software provider because it kept locking up.
Okay.
And I called them and I said, it's still locking up. And they said, well, we've never seen us lock up a system. We've seen IIS crash before, but we've never seen it lock up. So we're not sure if it's our software or not. Okay, so I'm going to abandon that for now because I don't know if it's yours or not. And I can't say, let's not use your software for 2 days and see what happens because this is like their main application.
Right.
I did take this opportunity to tell the customer, you need new servers. This server is almost 6 years old. And when we put this server in, you had 10 users. Now you have 60.
Mm.
Not to mention the growth, the other growth. I mean, y'all running at least 10 different